Did you know that nearly 1 in 5 people in the UK are struggling to keep up with the rising cost of living? And that's just the beginning. Years, what was once considered normal daily life has started to unravel at an alarming rate. From skyrocketing housing prices to overwhelmed public services, the country's entire structure is beginning to show cracks. But what's really going on? Why are simple things like commuting, paying bills, or even finding a decent meal becoming harder for so many? Is it just a temporary blip, or are we witnessing something far more profound? The truth is, the collapse of everyday life in the UK isn't just a headline. It's happening right now, and it's affecting millions of people. This isn't just about politics or economics, it's about real lives being disrupted. What happens when basic needs, like housing and healthcare, become luxuries for the few? And how much longer can society hold up under this pressure? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll have 10 shocking reasons that explain on the brink of a collapse you might not even realize is happening. Trust me, this is something you won't want to miss. Number 1, economic decline and inflation. The first reason behind the collapse of everyday life in the UK is the deepening economic decline, with inflation wreaking havoc on everyday budgets. In 2023, the UK saw inflation hit a staggering 10.1%, making it one of the highest rates in Europe. But what does that really mean for the average person on the street? Imagine this. Everyday items like food, gas, and even basic household goods are becoming more and more expensive, while wages are either stagnant or growing at a slower rate. This gap between income and cost of living is squeezing people tighter than ever. Families are now spending more of their income just to stay afloat, leaving less room. Whether it's saving for the future, buying new clothes, or even enjoying a night out. It's a relentless cycle that's only getting worse. For many, the cost of food has been a huge shock. In some areas, grocery prices have increased by over 30% in just a year. A simple trip to the supermarket is no longer a routine task. It's a painful reminder of just how far money goes these days. And it's not just food. Gas prices have fluctuated wildly, meaning daily commutes have become a financial burden for working families. But what's most concerning is the long-term impact of inflation. It doesn't just hurt your wallet today. It erodes the very foundation of financial security for tomorrow. And for the UK, this is just the beginning. So the question is, how long can the UK sustain this economic decline before it reaches a breaking point? Number 2, public service failures. One of the most alarming signs of the UK's collapse is the services. Once the cornerstone of a fair and functional society, services like healthcare, transportation, and social care are now overstretched and underfunded, causing major disruptions in daily life. Take the NHS, for example. Hospital waiting times are at an all-time high, with some patients waiting months for even the most urgent procedures. Emergency rooms are overwhelmed, and doctors are forced to make heartbreaking decisions due to a lack of resources. Imagine needing medical attention, but being told you'll have to wait weeks or even months to get the care you need. It's not just inconvenient, it's a matter of life and death for some. Then there's the transportation system. Train strikes have become a regular occurrence, and when trains do run, they're often overcrowded or delayed. For anyone relying on public transport to get to work, school, or appointments, it's become a frustrating gamble. People are missing out on opportunities on work and facing increased stress because of this chaotic system, and don't even get started on social care services. With an aging population and a shortage of staff, the elderly and vulnerable are falling through the cracks, unable to receive the support they deserve. How do you feel about these failures? Have you experienced delays or issues with public services? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to stay updated on the current situation and what you can do about it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more insights. Number 3. Housing crisis. The housing crisis in the UK has reached a breaking point, and it's affecting more people than ever. The dream of owning a home feels out of reach for millions, while many renters face skyrocketing costs with little hope of stability. For most, the very idea of finding an affordable has become a distant fantasy. Over the past decade, house prices have exploded, with the average cost of a home now more than 10 times the average annual salary. This is a level of unaffordability that many simply can't overcome. And it's not just buyers who are struggling. Renters are in a similar bind. Rents have increased sharply, and it's not unusual to see rental prices rising by 10% or more year after year. In many major cities, people are forced into overcrowded flats or face long commutes to areas they can barely afford. The worst part? The supply of new homes isn't keeping pace with demand. The UK is facing a shortage of housing, especially affordable housing. This imbalance means that even if you can scrape together a deposit for a house, there may not be any properties available in your price range. And for those stuck renting, rising rents are making it for a deposit, creating a vicious cycle that keeps people locked out of the housing market. In a society where a stable home is meant to be a basic right, the current crisis is a tragic reflection of how deeply the system is failing. It's no longer just about finding a roof over your head. It's about how long you can survive under the weight of rising costs and limited options. Number 4. Mental health epidemic. As if the external pressures of the economy and daily life weren't enough, there's another crisis quietly taking hold in the UK. The growing mental health epidemic, the stress and uncertainty brought on by economic instability, political chaos, and social fragmentation, are taking a serious toll on people's well-being. And it's not just a small issue, it's widespread, affecting individuals across all walks of life. Recent sharp increase in anxiety, depression, and other mental health conditions. In fact, surveys suggest that 1 in 4 people in the UK are experiencing some form of mental health problem. That's an alarming statistic, and it's likely even higher considering the stigma that still surrounds mental health. People often suffer in silence, afraid to ask for help, or to acknowledge that they are struggling. What's even more concerning is how this crisis is tied directly to the other issues we've discussed. The economic pressures of inflation, job insecurity, and the housing crisis are creating an environment where mental health issues are amplified. Families who are already stretched thin are now dealing with the added burden of mental strain, and the lack of sufficient mental health services makes it harder for people to get the help they need. Waiting times for therapy can stretch for months, leaving individuals with little support when they need it. It's clear that the mental health epidemic in the UK isn't just a result of personal issues. It's a societal problem fueled by broader systemic failures. Until these underlying causes are addressed, the crisis will only continue to worsen. Number 5. Political instability. The UK has always prided itself on its stable political landscape, but in recent years, that stability has been increasingly questioned. Political instability is one of the major reasons behind the unraveling of everyday life. It's not just about elections or who's in power. It's the constant uncertainty, leadership changes, and an inability to make long-term decisions that's affecting the entire country. The UK has witnessed a revolving door of prime ministers and political leaders over the last few years, each one trying to address the nation's challenges, but often struggling to maintain control. The chaos surrounding Brexit left the nation divided, and the aftermath continues to reverberate in government policies. We saw the resignation of multiple leaders, creating a leadership vacuum that only deepened the public's sense of unease. What does all this mean for the average citizen? It's more than just political drama. It affects everything. When there's no clear direction from the top, vital decisions on healthcare, education, and the economy become delayed or poorly implemented. The lack of consistency leaves the public unsure of what to expect, making it harder to plan for the future. In a country where citizens expect their leaders to provide a vision for the nation's future, the ongoing political turmoil leaves people feeling frustrated, disconnected, and increasingly distrustful of the government. The feeling of instability has trickled down to every corner of society, making it difficult for people to feel confident about what tomorrow might bring. In a world that craves certainty, political instability has created a perfect storm of fear. Number 6. The breakdown of social fabric. The breakdown of social fabric in the UK is a subtle but powerful force undermining everyday life. Society, once tightly bound by shared values, communities, and a sense of collective purpose, now seems to be fragmenting at an alarming rate. This erosion of social bonds is not just an abstract concept. It's something people are feeling in their daily interactions, in their neighborhoods, and even within their families. Social isolation has become a widespread issue, especially since the pandemic. While technology promised to bring us closer together, it often has the opposite effect. People are spending more time on their phones or behind screens, losing out on face-to-face connections that foster genuine relationships. Communities that were once tight-knit now struggle with a sense of, and in some cases, apathy. The rise of individualism is another contributing factor. As people prioritize personal success over collective well-being, we're seeing a growing disregard for the needs of others. This shift is most visible in urban areas, where people are more likely to remain strangers to their neighbors, leading to a breakdown in trust. Trust is crucial for a functioning society, and when it diminishes, problems like crime, inequality, and political polarization worsen. Moreover, intergenerational connections are weakening. The elderly, who once formed the backbone of communities, now face growing isolation. Younger generations, overwhelmed by economic pressures, struggle to provide the support they need. This divide between age groups creates an environment where social cohesion becomes harder to maintain. The collapse of community and social trust is a silent crisis with far-reaching consequences, making it harder for individuals to feel secure, supported, or connected to each other. Number 7. Decline in education standards. One of the most troubling aspects of the UK's current challenges is the decline in education standards. Education is often seen as the key to social mobility and national prosperity, but recent trends suggest that the system is struggling to keep pace with the needs of students and the demands of the modern world. From primary schools to universities, institutions are grappling with a lack of funding, overcrowded classrooms, and outdated curriculums. Teachers are overworked and underpaid, leading to burnout and, in some cases, leaving the profession altogether. The education system that was once a source of pride now faces accusations of failing students, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds. In schools, basic resources are often in short supply. Classrooms are overcrowded, and technology, something that should be an asset, is either inadequate or not properly integrated into lessons. This means students are not receiving the kind of education they need to succeed in a rapidly evolving world. Even more concerning is the mental toll this situation is taking on students, who are dealing with higher levels of stress, anxiety, and pressure to perform. At the higher education level, the cost of university tuition has skyrocketed, making education less accessible to those from lower-income families. Meanwhile, the quality of degrees and the return on investment are increasingly being questioned. Many graduates struggle to find employment in their field, saddled with significant debt. In a society where education should open doors, it is increasingly closing them, leaving many young people to navigate a complex world. This decline in education standards not only impacts individuals, it jeopardizes the future of the entire nation. Number 8. Environmental degradation and natural disasters. The UK's environmental challenges have reached a tipping point, with environmental degradation and natural disasters starting to disrupt everyday life in profound ways. Climate change isn't a far-off issue. It's here, and it's affecting the country's infrastructure, economy, and, most importantly, the daily lives of its citizens. For years, the UK has experienced more frequent floods, storms, and heat waves, events that have caused untold damage to homes, businesses, and entire communities. In recent summers, the country has witnessed record-breaking temperatures that put an immense strain on the healthcare system, agriculture, and energy resources. People are facing longer periods, making it difficult to plan for simple things like going to work or school, let alone events or holidays. Flooding, in particular, has become a recurrent issue. With increasingly unpredictable weather patterns, many areas are now at risk of severe flooding, especially in regions near rivers and coastlines. In some cases, local governments are struggling to maintain flood defences or support communities who face annual damage. Property values in flood-prone areas have plummeted, and people are forced to live with the constant fear of their homes being destroyed. In agriculture, extreme weather has severely impacted crop yields, driving up food prices and reducing supply. It's not just the price of food that's rising. Food security itself is at risk. With more unpredictable growing seasons, the UK is finding it harder to maintain a steady supply of domestically grown produce, relying more heavily on imports that are increasingly expensive. Ultimately, the ongoing environmental degradation is creating a world that's harder to navigate, where daily life is constantly disrupted by forces beyond our control. The future looks uncertain unless drastic steps are taken to mitigate the damage. Number 9. Technological dependence. As much as technology has brought convenience to our lives, it has also made us more vulnerable. The UK's growing dependence on technology is one of the silent forces eroding everyday life. From banking to communication, transportation to healthcare, our reliance on digital systems is at an all-time high. But what happens when these systems fail or are compromised? Cyber attacks and data breaches have become frequent headlines, leaving millions of people exposed. From personal bank accounts being drained to personal information being stolen, the consequences are becoming frighteningly apparent. And it's not just individuals who are affected. Businesses, hospitals, and even government institutions are vulnerable to attacks that could cripple essential services. Imagine a major cyber attack that takes down an entire financial system or disables emergency services for even a day. The chaos that would follow would be unimaginable. Beyond cybercrime, there's the issue of technological glitches. Systems that millions depend on for basic services, like healthcare or transportation, often crash, leaving people stranded or without access to critical resources. The failure of public transport apps or online banking platforms during rush hours causes immediate frustration. But on a larger scale, it highlights how fragile our digital infrastructure is. But it's not just about the risks of malfunction or attack. Technology has also alienated us from real-world interactions. We through our phones, then engaging with people face-to-face, leading to a decline in social skills and community engagement. This deep reliance on tech leaves us exposed, disconnected, and increasingly vulnerable to a world that feels less secure and more unpredictable. In the end, the more we depend on technology, the greater the risks we face. And as we move deeper into the digital age, those risks are only set to grow. Number 10. Decline in public morale and trust. One of the most pervasive and damaging effects of the current crisis in the UK is the decline in public morale and trust. This erosion of confidence isn't just about mistrusting politicians. It's about a deep sense of disillusionment that's spreading across the population, affecting everything from community interactions to faith in institutions. The more people feel let down by the systems meant to support them, the more fragile. It starts with political distrust. With constant leadership changes, broken promises, and a lack of clear direction, the public feels as though they're being left behind. The Brexit aftermath, followed by an unstable government, has left many wondering if the country's leadership is even capable of resolving its most pressing issues. When the people's trust in government diminishes, it leads to widespread cynicism and a sense of alienation from the very institutions that are supposed to protect them. But it's not just politics. There's also a growing lack of trust in institutions like media, healthcare, and even law enforcement. Scandals, misinformation, and ongoing struggles to address pressing issues have contributed to a toxic environment of doubt. The more society loses confidence in these pillars, public discourse becomes. People no longer know where to turn for reliable information or support, and that breeds anxiety and frustration. This erosion of trust affects not just public institutions, but community bonds as well. People are increasingly wary of their neighbors, questioning who they can rely on and whether collective action is even possible anymore. The result? A fragmented society where individuals feel disconnected, isolated, and uncertain about the future. This decline in morale creates a vicious cycle that's harder to break. Without trust, it becomes nearly impossible to rebuild what's been lost. We've uncovered some harsh truths about the UK's current crisis, but what do you think? How are these issues affecting your life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't seen our previous video yet, it's time to catch up on more eye-opening insights. Effort into creating content like this, so please show your support with just one click. Hit subscribe and join the conversation.